go, oh, hey, man, how's it going? And he goes, I don't know if you've heard, but I got divorced and lost everything. I laughed. I laughed in his face. Not as that's a horrible thing to happen, but I haven't talked to you in years. That's the first thing you're going to say to me? Maybe this is going to make me sound bad. It's probably going to make me sound bad. Test. Okay. Hi, everyone. This is the podcast. I'm doing some distracted driving, recording the podcast alone by myself while driving home from DIA. It is 1 a.m. Why am I doing this alone by myself driving home from DIA? Great questions. 1, I am tie-tie, and I kind of need a way to keep myself awake. And you know what's better than tired driving? Tired, distracted driving. So that's going to be a fun little challenge that we're calling this the Tired Exhaustion Distracted Driving Challenge. So that's fun. 2, not to name any names. I was in Miami. I was hanging out with my best friend since we were in the 2nd grade. Visiting my best friend Jacob Pepperoni over in Miami. And with the intention also of let's do a little episode. That'll be fun. He's fun and wacky. We're best friends. We get along really well. This will be an interesting dynamic. Jacob Pepperoni, bout of depression, so not super interested in putting all of his thoughts and feelings out there on recording on camera right at the moment. So I had to record something so that I would not be behind on my release schedule, because I know people are chomping at the bit. They're definitely really excited for new episodes, and if I didn't release one, they would go, what the hell? And everyone would be mad at me. Definitely people would not care at all. So I'm recording an episode to keep up appearances, to keep myself awake, and also someone decided to not record an episode with me because he was feeling sad. How do I get out of this parking spot? I'm in a parking, not the garage, but a lot. But I've already paid for my parking. So what am I doing here? Again, this is not good episode. So I was in Miami, as I mentioned, had a good time there. We hang out once every year and a half, and he's always flying out here. So I'm like, well, buddy boy, let me fly out to you. I think that's the kind thing to do. Every 10 years, I'll fly out to you instead of you having to come out here. But he does, I'm 29, he's 28. He does have rich parents who pay for most of his stuff still. So I feel I don't feel too bad that he flies out to see me because it's free for him, and it was $250 for me. So doesn't usually bother me that much, but every once in a while, every decade, maybe it's something I could think about. What was really fun about going to Miami, and another reason why I have to record a podcast episode right now on the road, is that I won't have time. When I get home, I won't have time to record any episodes, invite anyone over, meet any guests, because there was a leak in my upstairs bathroom. I don't even know if it's a leak. The water mitigation people said it's a soft blockage with an overflow. They're like, don't say leak because insurance doesn't say leak. Don't say backup because insurance doesn't cover a backup. You have to say it's a soft blockage with overflow. So, any of you plumbing heads out there, that's good news for you. But yeah, so anyways, a bunch of dirty gray water got into like my subfloor and the downstairs bathroom and all that. And then we haven't lived in our house for like 2 or 3 weeks because there's like dirty, disgusting backup water in our floorboards and in our subfloor. So there's a water mitigation team who has to come out. This is not interesting at all. This is bad and not interesting. But point being, that I'm going to get home at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then I have to wake up at 8 a.m., and then I have to start rebuilding this house. I have to start doing flooring, start drywalling, none of which I know how to do. If you know anything about me, I'm kind of a wacky guy. That's kind of my thing. Being helpful and self-sufficient has never been in my wheelhouse. I'm more of a slap and tickle, shucking and jiving kind of guy. Not really a handy, helpful boy. Which I do need to stop calling myself a boy. I think I've been calling myself a boy for 29 years now, and I think that's done. You can only be a boy. There's no 42-year-old boys. So at a certain point, I gotta cut that out. But I do like to reference myself as a little baby boy who does have a beard and a child and a mortgage. But in my head, I'm just a boy. Nary a man, but a boy. Yeah, so I have to, I gotta, like, fix a bunch of stuff in my house. None of which I've done before. So I gotta do that starting in 7-8 hours. So I'm not gonna really have a time to invite a guest over. I think Lydia would be mad if I was like, I know we haven't lived in our house in 3 weeks, but I do have to get a pod out. So I have to invite Callan over so we can knock out an episode. I do not have a soda. Well, no, scratch that. I do have 6 sips. 6 sips is a lot. 3 sips / 1 gulp of a Dr. Pepper that's been sitting in my car at the Denver airport for 5 days. So I'll probably drink that, just gulp a 5-day-old previously opened Dr. Pepper and drink that, and then that's the gimmick, everybody. We did it. I've never let you down before. I won't start now. Hanging out in Miami. Had ceviche for the first time. Ceviche. It's fish. You know, I don't see what the big hullabaloo's all about. Had some good flan. This is not interesting. How am I supposed to do this? What is interesting, I'll tell you. There's another podcast that I from time to time contract with for an old employer that I had. And an old employer, this was like a couple days before I left for Miami, old employer had a ribbon cutting, and they invited me to join. They're like, there's going to be free coffee. The mayor's going to be there. But we have a new office. We're cutting the ribbon. We'd like you to be there. And I said, sure, I will take 2 hours off of work for free coffee and not tell anyone. I feel like that is fair all the way around. Old coworker. Bumped into an old coworker there, as you can imagine. But he quit before I left. Quit and then is now returned to the office. You know what, Patrick? This is for Patrick. Everyone, if you're not Patrick, quit listening. Patrick, I ran into a certain former marketing manager at a ribbon cutting of our former employer, and haven't seen this man in 4 years. Haven't really talked to him. He was fine. Kind of a dick to work with. But I think he was just like stressed and anxious. He was just having a bad time, and he kind of took it out on people. Overworked himself, despite him not needing to do so. Just refusing to ask for help. Anyways, bumped into this man I have not talked to in years. former coworker, not close friends, coworker. This is all important context because bump into him. I go, oh, hey, bleep the name. I go, oh, hey, man. How's it going? And he goes, I don't know if you've heard, but I got divorced and lost everything. I laughed. I laughed in his face. Not as like that's a horrible thing to happen, but I haven't talked to you in years. That's the first thing you're going to say to me? Maybe this is going to make me sound bad. It's probably going to make me sound bad. But socially, conversationally, that's not how you open. That's not how you open for the first time in years. You're like, oh, how are things? It is what it is. Other white people saying, living the dream, couldn't be better, but then you put like a pantomimed pistol to your head. I don't know, something like that. But you don't open up with, my wife left and took everything from me. That's insane. That's an insane way to say hi to someone. So did I have my social graces about me? No. Did I have the best bedside manner? I'm not saying that I did. But I was shocked and stunned, and I wasn't ready for that kind of reaction. And comedy is all about timing. It's all about a release of tension. And it is a little bit of shock value. And that had all those things. The timing was hilarious. What a tense thing to say to someone, and laughter releases tension. And what a shock value. Just kind of a left turn, non sequitur, a bit of a sequitur, but just right out of the gate, just hit you with it. That has all the beautiful elements of comedy. So even though what he said was in itself not a funny thing, I'm not laughing at a man's situation. It was funny, and I did point and laugh in a man's face who had just told me he lost everything. I'll admit the pointing was unnecessary. I did not need to point at him while I laughed at him. But I did laugh at him, which sounds bad. But to buy myself back a little bit, he then later asked me, what do you do? And I told him where I work now. And he's like, oh, I know where you work now. I hate that place. That place sucks. Our company uses your company's thing, and I hate that thing. I'm trying to cancel it right now. And I was like, I work there. I like it. It's the only place I've ever tried to work at, like that I applied to work at, where in the interview I could genuinely say, I actually like this company and this product, and not just like, I need money. I could say like, no, I want to work for you. I really enjoy the people who work here. I really enjoy the stuff that you sell. I would like to be a part of the team. And I told him all this, and he said, well, I don't care. I could build better stuff in my sleep. I was like, why didn't you then? Why are you back working at a former employer? Also, he did, not to give too much detail, but he's in a bad spot. His wife took everything from him. I don't know how the whole situation. He just said, my wife left and I lost everything. But he was like, yeah, I was in a bad spot. I asked the president if he had any recommendations of places that were hiring, and he actually offered me a job to work there. And then he just proceeded to doo-doo on the president who gave him a job and the company who was gracious enough to let him work there once again. He was just telling me it's all bad. The guy's weird. The whole thing's weird. Which, whatever, if it's weird, but they did, save you, I guess. So anyways, he was rude, and I left early, so I didn't have to talk to him. I'm not worried about him listening to this. I think his own screams internally probably fill his mind enough that he doesn't also need a podcast from a guy he worked with 4 years ago. But that was for Patrick. Everyone else, you're allowed to tune back in again. Well, it was a rough start, but I think that was interesting. I think it was a slow start getting into talking. Very boring telling you about my plumbing, but I think that was interesting, and I think we're in a good spot now. And now we're just going to coast. We need to coast for 45 minutes. I know what you guys are thinking. Russell, how are you going to do it without a guest? How are you going to do it without a guest? You're such a good listener with all of your guests. You're back and forth. Yes, and is all, you're giving as much as you're taking. You definitely don't just wait for other people to stop talking so you can start talking, and you step on other people's jokes because you're so interested in what you yourself have to say. How are you going to do it without a guest? You don't love to hear yourself talk 90% of the time. How are you going to maintain the momentum? I don't know. We're going to have to find out together. We're on a journey. We're going down this path, this little Red Riding Hood path, and maybe there's a big bad wolf at the end. And that big bad wolf is me getting pulled over for distracted driving. Or just hitting, not even getting pulled over, just fully hitting a family in my car. So that'll be fun. That'll be huge for the ratings. Man, if only we had video. A video podcast clip on TikTok of me hitting a family crossing the road at 1 a.m., that would go viral. That would be really good. Yeah, I was in Miami. Went to the beach. The only beach I've been to as an adult is Hawaii. And I think California, maybe, when I was like 22 or something like that. That counts. But that I can remember is Hawaii. It's hard to compete with. Not that I'm rich at all. It's not like I go to Hawaii all the time. I went with my wife in 2018, first time I had ever been. And then I went again recently in October with the in-laws to go see Nana before she passes. Which I don't know if that's what Nana. I'm sure Nana knows that, but I don't know if we're saying that out loud. It's like the reason we're going is because Nana's not long for this world. I'm sure she knows that. Are old people aware of that? Like right now, I know I'm 29. I know I've got time to kill. Are people 85? They're like, it's over for me now, right? I get that they're probably aware that death is around the corner. Are they aware that they only have relationships with people because those people are worried that they're going to pass away? I don't think that's true. I think I've just said a crazy statement. And actually, I think that says a lot more about me and how I view relationships with people, more so than it says anything about society as a whole. I think I only would go and see an elderly person right before they're about to die if I knew they were dying soon, and you kind of have to because that's the correct move. I think that's a me problem. I think that's a sociopath thing. And I'm trying to blend in socially, less so than that's what everyone does. I think people actually have a relationship with, their grandparents or their parents. I think that's a me problem. You guys ever worry if you are displaying narcissistic or sociopathic tendencies? I think about it. I'm not saying I have them, but I think about it quite a bit. I think I was exposed to the internet too young, and I think it's taken a lot from me, empathy-wise. What is happening? What is this? No one's listening to this. Oh, was I supposed to turn there? Oh, you betcha. You bet I was supposed to turn there. You bet I was supposed to turn there. Well, we're going to Fort Collins, baby. We're definitely not driving south back home. Goodbye, wife and daughter. I got other cool stuff to do. This vacation just got a couple hours longer. I was telling a friend in Miami, very excited to get back home to my wife and daughter. I miss them very much. I miss my baby girl. I miss my sweet daughter very much. That being said, I do actually miss her. However, I know there's going to be like 20 minutes where I'm like, man, I miss this kid so much. And after about 20 minutes, I'm like, man, I would love to be on my phone right now. I would kill to be watching TikToks right now and not talking to my own daughter. Which, again, not great, but I think if you're a parent and you can't relate to that, you're a liar. You're an absolute liar. There's sometimes I've missed my daughter so badly, and after about 9 minutes of playing pretend with her, I'm like, well, we did it. You know, we're kind of accomplished pretend, so you want to watch a movie or something so Daddy can be on his phone? And I'm acknowledging it, and that's good. That means I'm a good person. If you can acknowledge your faults, but not do anything to change those faults, I think that makes you inherently good. I had one of my sweet brother-in-laws told me that once, where he's like, well, at least I know something about something else, obviously. And he was like, well, at least I know I'm doing something wrong. At least I know I'm being bad about this, so that's good. I was like, no, that's actually so much worse. It's way worse to know you're doing something immoral and conscientiously continue to decide to keep making that decision rather than being able to plea ignorance. Fully saying, I know this is bad, and then continuing to do it is worse. In case anyone needs to hear that. But back to my daughter. I love hanging out with her. I love talking with her. She's so cute. I love wrestling. I love palling around with her. I just have a hard time, I guess, with imagination, because, again, exposed to the internet and technology at a very young age that kind of has always been filled in for me. But she want to, like, okay, so we're playing shop. She wants to play shop. Okay. All right, well, hello, shopkeep. I'd like to purchase these wares, and okay, do you have money? Oh, yes, I have money, which is just, dead batteries that I found in the couch. Yep, there's my money. Thank you very much. And then we do a little barter trade thing, and that's fun. And we do that for about 6 minutes. And then she's like, what else? Now, what else would you like to buy? I'm like, I've we did it, though. We did the shop. I bought the things. Is this what we're going to do for the next hour and a half? As I'm on my knees, shuffling back and forth between your cubby and your little station you set up and trading things with you. And I know what you guys are thinking. Yes, that's what a parent does. Ew. No, thank you. Playing pretend for over 10 minutes. The shop is actually fine. The thing I genuinely, I truly struggle with is my daughter loves to play parents. She's the mommy. I'm the daddy. She has a doll. The doll is the baby. I'm sure you put the pieces together. That's not fun. Because I'm already the daddy. So now I'm just double daddying. So now I'm still daddy. So nothing's changed for me. She's living in a fantasy realm. I'm just doing the things I was already doing. But now I don't even get, I was like, oh, time for daddy to read a story. Instead of reading my daughter a bedtime story, I now have to read out loud a bedtime story to a fake doll in a different room. And I don't get credit for reading it to my daughter. She's not getting the benefit. I'm sure there's some kind of physiological, sociological benefit to having your parents read out loud to you. She's not getting that because I'm doing it to a fake baby. She's not even in the same room, and I can't even be like, all right, well, I'll read to the baby. She leaves the room because it's quote-unquote bedtime for the baby, and then I can be on my phone. No. I have to read out loud, and if I stop reading out loud, my daughter comes and yells at me and gets upset, which, maybe she rightfully should because I'm not playing the game that she would like. So I'm just alone in a guest bedroom reading a book to a doll, bored out of my mind. I'm gonna have to do this with her. Like, I'm gonna have to do this with you 3 hours from now. I'm gonna have to sit in your bedroom and read bedtime stories to you. Please don't make me do it already. But yeah, fake baby, like changing diapers, and time to take the baby to school. I already have to take you to school. I don't want to take the fake baby to school. This isn't fun. I'm just doing what I'm doing with the baby and not getting paid for it. Not getting credit sociologically, physiologically, even my own, your own hormones, like, I don't know, amygdala. That's a word. That's a hormone word. My own endorphins, I think that's what I'm looking for I'm taking care of my child. I don't even get that because I'm doing it to a fake baby. So it's the worst of all the worlds. And if anyone thinks I'm a bad parent, you're probably right, but you're probably also a hypocrite. Oh, having a daughter, having my little girl is the best, and it also, boy, what a bore. Keep trying to get her into cool stuff, and she's not interested in cool stuff. She just likes lame stuff. I not that I'm like anti-princess. She can be a princess girl. I don't care. But I don't want to, I don't want to box her in. I don't want to pigeonhole her to like girls do girl stuff and boys do boy stuff. Like, yeah, love princesses. You can also love, this, that, and the other thing. You can love working on cars. You can love beatboxing. I don't know why that's the example I came up with, but you know how girls historically have not been allowed to beatbox. You know how Nixon with Prop 8 or whatever allowed females in college to start playing beatbox. I'm confusing quite a handful of things right now, but Nixon did do stuff for girls in college or something. Anyways, but yeah, so I'm like, I said on the episode with my wife, with Lydia, that I tried to show her MXC. She's not interested. Dude, I thought, because Violet loves princesses, she loves dress up. And I'm like, oh, you're going to love pro wrestling. Let me show you pro wrestling. It's the coolest. It's just dress up. It's pageantry. It's high school theater acting and vicious combat. Does not care. Doesn't care at all. Not interested in any cool stuff. Just likes princesses, just likes dress up. Which is great. That's fine. But we got to get her some, I don't know. I don't have to do anything. That's the thing, is I go like, well, we got to get her some other stuff so she's a well-rounded person. Like, well, if she's going to have princess stuff, she got to have camouflage. But also, I don't wear camouflage. I don't care about camouflage. Why do I feel like I have to make her like boy stuff equal to girl stuff? I want her to like things that I like so that we have stuff in common, and I can get away with just showing her wrestling and I just get to watch wrestling and it be considered father-daughter time. But there's a weird intrinsic thing of like, no, she's not allowed to like just girl stuff because then people will think I'm way conservative or something. Like, she also has to like boy stuff. That way people know I'm hip and with it. But she just might be someone who likes all girl stuff, and that's fine. I think the point is to not force anything on her one way or the other. I think that's what we're trying to come to. But then we got these parents out there chopping their sons' dicks off. But let's not do any of that. Let's just hang out. Let's just chill. That's the moral of the episode. Let's just chill. Just hang out. 30 minutes. All right, this is how far we got. Speaking of Nixon, listening to a podcast on the flight, on the plane back from Miami. I bought a book at a bookstore to read. I read the foreword, and then I'm like, this is lame. Books are lame as hell. I'm gonna listen to a podcast and play games on my phone. I'm very excited to read this book, though. At some point, maybe years down the road. It's like The Art of Creativity or something like that. It's by Rick Rubin, who is a music producer, which I don't know dick about, but apparently very prolific music producer. Any name a musical artist who is big and famous, and they've worked with Rick Rubin, I guess. And all this I learned from a lovely comedian gentleman named Matt Cabos, who I gave him a ride up to Boulder, and he was nice, and we were chit-chatting. But he was telling me about this book, and I guess Rick Rubin, big, prolific, famous music producer, doesn't know anything about music. Can't read music, doesn't know scales. I guess he's just he's got great taste. He just knows what is and isn't good, and he can kind of go well, this could use a little or something, and they put a little in it, and it's that's a hit. Thanks, Rick Rubin. So he's just very interested in creativity and something about you don't have to be creative. Creativity is an energy that the earth puts out, and you gotta get in tune with it. You just gotta resonate with it. Anyways, book about being creative. I thought that was interesting. Matt Cabos recommended that I give it a read, so I bought it, and then it'll sit on my shelf for a long time. Anyways, Nixon. Yeah, I guess everyone knows oh, Nixon's so paranoid. He's so crazy. And I guess he was constantly, paranoid, but because he was constantly under attack from the CIA and the FBI. And it's stuff they don't tell you about Nixon. And I guess he was trying to end the war in Vietnam. He was trying to open up lines of communication and commerce with Russia and China, with our enemies. And, make of that what you will one way or the other. But he's trying to open up that kind of thing. So and then he didn't trust these federal agencies because he believed they screwed him out of his election to get elected against him in JFK. He thought they played a part in that, so he didn't trust them. So as he's having these foreign affairs conversations, he had an internal policy of you guys are not involved. I'm boxing you out. I'm icing you out. And they the CIA, the FBI would have spies in the Nixon administration reporting in on him, so they knew what he was up to. And so he was so paranoid because he had, domestic spies constantly in his midst. So that's why he was bugging his own wire and phone and had secret conversations recorded all the time. That was interesting. I guess some of the guys that broke into Watergate, most of the guys who broke into Watergate Hotel were they were there to get, is this interesting? They were there to get dirt on the Dems, on the libs, but it was a conspiracy within a conspiracy because they were all also CIA informants, and they were big hawks, and they didn't want Nixon getting into bed with the Chi-Com, so they were also looking for dirt on Nixon. And there's recordings after Watergate, because Nixon recorded everything, where there's phone conversations and rooms that have been bugged, and Nixon's going who are these guys? Why are they doing this? Did you tell them to do that? I didn't tell them to do it. Yeah, so anyways, his gut reaction is, well, we have to cover this up. This looks really bad for us. And that's what he got thrown out of office for, was obstruction of justice. So it wasn't the actual spying and Watergate itself. It's just that he tried to cover up Watergate because he got scared that he would get in trouble, and then he got in trouble anyways. But anyways, the CIA killed Martin Luther King, or CIA killed JFK, and the FBI killed Martin Luther King. That's all. do with all that information what you will. This is what happens when I don't have a guest. Actually, this does happen when I have a guest. This happens usually when I'm talking to Mike. You guys know Mike. He's cool. But so that was an interesting podcast I listened to. I'm just going to recap media I've consumed and deliver that to you. This is just kind of my review corner of what I think's going on in the world. We're talking trans issues. We're talking foreign affairs. This podcast really has everything. I probably won't put this out there, but hey, I'm awake, and we're in Castle Rock now. Well, the airport is far away. If I'm just now in Castle Rock, the airport is far away. It sucks so bad to drive to an airport an hour and a half away when the city I live in has an airport. It's so stupid. If you don't know, Colorado Springs Airport is like, I don't know, $400 more expensive to fly out of than DIA, than Denver International Airport. So even though there's a airport I can see, I have to drive an hour and a half away. And it sucks. It sucks so bad. I hate it. But yeah, I'm excited to see my daughter. Excited to see my wife. She's the best. I miss her. She's had to deal with this house stuff while I've not been there, and I felt very guilty about it. I'm gone. I'm gone for 5 days. I miss my wife. You know, I yearn for her. I long for her. And when she's away or I'm away, I have a weird habit where I just add a bunch of cool stuff to an Amazon cart. I never buy it. I just add a bunch of stuff to a cart and go like, what if? That's what I do when I miss my wife. And the problem with that is, and that's fine. That's fine in the eyes of God. we're in the green. In the black? Why does it say in the black for finances? It should be in the green. Green's good. Anyways, but add a bunch of cool stuff to a cart. And I just kind of let it hang out in there. I just kind of let the cart marinate with cool stuff. But the problem is I also buy a lot of like podcast equipment, and like I have my own show that I produce. Like I buy lights and stands and timers, and I've bought like camera lenses and microphones and lights and all that stuff off Amazon. So my Amazon like recommended is crazy. It's just a lot of like cameras, lighting equipment, and lace. I have the most suspicious looking Amazon cart. Not cart recommended. It's just like, if you enjoyed all this lighting equipment, you might also enjoy this massage oil that gets everything real slippery. Yeah, that sucks. I gotta start buying hot sauce or something. I gotta start buying some, I don't know, wrench. Let's name things. Wrench. Hot sauce. Banana. Lube. See, Dame, there it is. We can only get 4 in before we're right back to it. There's a TikTok of a man, an expat who lives in Vietnam, and he's a chef, and he just eats street food and cooks in Vietnam, and I watch all of his videos. He's a spokesperson for a Vietnamese sauce called Chin Su, and they're a Chin Su original. They got Chin Su sriracha. They got Chin Su truffle oil. They got Chin Su ketchup. And I have had some Chin Su sitting in my wish list for a while now. Interested in the Chin Su. Also, this is fun. Certain part of the country, it's like one state and in one part of one state, and I couldn't tell you. That's as far as my knowledge base goes. They do a thing called coffee milk. think it's like the Northeast, but I'm definitely wrong on that. It's like coffee milk. She's like, what is coffee milk? That's just coffee in milk. No, no, no. How could you be so stupid? You idiot. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear yourself talking? God, what I have to put up with. This is you don't neg. Don't neg the 6 people who listen. Come on. But coffee milk is like, like there's Hershey, very progressive. Him, his. You know how there's him, his? That's the conservative Hershey's. Him, his chocolate syrup. There's him, his chocolate syrup. There's coffee syrup. It's syrup that you put in milk, like a Hershey syrup, but it's coffee-flavored syrup. And you mix it with milk. And I want to try that so bad. I want to try coffee milk so bad. And you know what? I bet you right now, never had it. I could ballpark guess what that tastes like. I bet it tastes like coffee milk. Do I still want to buy a $16 bottle off Amazon and have it shipped to my house to use it once to then go, I knew what that was going to be, and then that sits in my fridge for, 8 years? Yes, of course I want to do that. It's all I think about. What if coffee milk's the new hip thing and I'm on the cutting edge? Lee and Will, owners of Dynamo Coffee. If I make coffee milk the hip new thing, and then we do coffee milk at Dynamo, I want credit. I want a percentage, only of the coffee milks, but I want a percentage. Sponsor the podcast. Can you imagine someone paying to sponsor this podcast? Especially a close family friend, which would be even worse. And just in the middle of parents are chopping their sons' dicks off. So today we have an excellent Arabica dark roast, limited time only, from Leah and Will, specifically. That'd be crazy if I was just, that'd be a great way to pivot into BetterHelp. That can't be good, right? Online mental health, like chatbot mental health therapist, that can't be good, in the quality, and good just in terms of society. That's a bad thing, right? That can't be good for people in both ways that I could mean, both in the product and just I'm struggling with my mental health. I'm going to talk to a chat box. That's probably going to put you deeper in a hole. You guys falling into K-holes out there? Are we familiar? Linda, can I call you Linda? Are you familiar with a K-hole? Ketamine holes. Doing so much ketamine, you fall into a mental prison of your own creation. I don't actually know what it is. These are just words I've heard degenerate comedians use. Saw Daniel Tosh do salvia once on Tosh.0. Did you guys watch Tosh.0? We big Tosh heads out here. Watch a lot of Tosh.0. Watch a lot of The Soup. You give me a clip show with a guy with hair plugs, I'm watching it. You get me a middling attractive tall white man with hair plugs showing me clips from the internet I've already seen. I'm bought in. I know what you're thinking. Russell Ridiculousness on MTV? Of course not. That's got a girl on it. Bleh. Not for me. No thanks. Speaking of Rick Rubin, I'm very interested in Orson Welles. If anyone has any Orson Welles, recommendations, books, podcasts, headshots, tasteful nudes, sketches. Really interested in Orson Welles. Orson, of course, did the War of the Worlds thing that tricked a bunch of people into thinking the world was ending, which that seems like it's a myth. I don't know if that actually happened. I think it probably I think probably like the War of the Worlds radio show happened, and I think like 65 people got tricked into thinking the world was ending, and I think it got blown up over time, towards like they burned down Chicago. I think it was probably 64 72-year-old people listening to the radio that's like, what's this nonsense? It's like when you put your grandma in VR and she thinks she's actually falling off the Empire State Building, so she smashes her head into the brick into the brick fireplace. It's like that, but I think Jay just did that with the radio. But did War of the Worlds, did Citizen Kane, which is, the most important movie that has ever been made, greatest movie that's ever been made, which people say and critics say and like is reviewed as like this is the best movie, most important movie, greatest movie that's ever been made. I took film classes in college. I have a communications degree with an emphasis in digital filmmaking and media arts, which means I was in customer service for a really long time. But so we had to watch Orson Welles, and I think in a cinematography class or something. But it was important because of what he did. The movie blows. The movie is boring. It is lame. It's ugly. But it's like it was beautiful and interesting and cool in 1932. But they're like, this is the greatest movie of all time. I'm like, the Avengers just came out. Have you seen that? It's the best. But no, very important movie. And one thing I really like about Orson Welles is at one point he was interviewed about that movie and like how he was able to pull it off. And his answer was, because they were like, oh, doing the things you did with the camera were impossible technologically until you did them. How did you do that? And you've never made a film before, you've never directed a film before, you've never produced a film before. How did you create a film that was, until you created it, on a technical level, impossible to create? And his answer was, because I didn't know it was impossible. Like, I was just so ignorant of the process that in my head, it looked like this, and I really wanted it to look like that. So I got a bunch of smart people around me, and I said, hey, make this look that way. And I gave them money, and they figured out how to do it. But it was purely ignorance is how I made these things happen. I didn't know that it was impossible, so I didn't know it was crazy for me to ask and to try to do that, and the attempt. And I think that's a fascinating thought, You can be so good at something and such an expert at something that where, like, well, this is possible, and this is impossible, and this has been done, and this hasn't been done, and this is technically true, and this is technically untrue, all that stuff. And so you're kind of like, you got blinders on. You're too honed in where you can't get outside the box. And there's something like beautiful and important about bringing in an ignoramus who goes, I don't know what the hell's going on here, but I want it to look like this. And you're like, well, he's paying us, I don't know. I'm sure at the time it was $8, which is the equivalent of a house now. But yeah, he didn't know that it was impossible. Ergo, he made it become a thing. And I've always been fascinated with that concept. There's like in sword fighting. You guys know a lot about sword fighting. I know you guys come to me for your sword fighting opinions. But there's this, adage that like the best swordsman in the world is not afraid of the second best swordsman in the world. He's scared of the amateur. Because the second best swordsman is going to be like, oh, he's going to hit me with Leaping Frog, and I'm going to parry with Ashante. But he knows I'm going to parry with Ashante, so he's going to preemptively go into two duck sitting. But I know he's going to go into two duck sitting, so I'm going to hit him with Panther Strike. But he knows that I know that he knows. So, like, you're kind of all operating on the same, even though he's dangerous because he's the second best in the world, you're kind of all operating on the same playing field. You're all playing chess, but everyone knows the rules of chess. Whereas a guy who doesn't know how sword fighting works is just swinging. He's just going Hail Mary. He's just going, who knows what he's going to pull. He might try throwing the sword in the air and just kicking it at you, trying to see if he can get you from range. Like, he's going to do such wild and stupid stuff that you're like, only an idiot would do that, and you would never assume they would try. But he did, because he is an idiot, and you weren't prepared for it. You weren't ready for him to do that thing, and so he stabs you in the heart and he kills you. Because you're like, I didn't know he was going to do that. I didn't know you were allowed to do that. It makes no sense for him to do that. But because it didn't make any sense and it's not predictable, you can't predict it, so you can't defend against it. I think that's fascinating. I think that's so interesting. The concept of brilliant ignorance, of being so unaware that you don't know where you have no blind spots. You're willing to try anything. You're willing to do anything because you didn't know what you could and couldn't do. Yeah, that's just so cool. I think that's, and he like championed that and was like, I don't really want. He talks about like cameras at one point, and he's like, yeah, I learned everything I needed to know about cameras in a day. There's experts, and they'll tell you, oh, it takes years and years and years and years and decades to master the craft. But he's like, just get a guy who's already done all of that, and he can teach it to you in like 24 hours, at the end of the day. Which he's like, I realize that's an incredibly ignorant thing to say. But also, I made the greatest movie of all time, so maybe suck my nut, Like, what are you going to... You're going to tell me I'm wrong? I made the most important movie that's ever been made. And, there's an interview with him talking about, it is foggy coming into the county line to here in what will soon be Monument. I should really pay attention to the driving. But there's an interview with Orson Welles where he talks about, someone's like, there's a lot of criticisms levied against you that you only have your friends on your movies and not actual actors, actual artists. You just have your friends do stuff. What do you say to that? And he's like, yeah, dude. He's like, yeah, I want, of all of the values that I hold in my life, art is the bottom of that. I hold art, the concept of art, with the least amount of respect and not relevance, reverence, with reverence. I totally value friendship 1,000 times more than I value artistry. I love my friends. My friends can do stuff for me. I get to see my friends and hang out with my friends and talk to my friends. Art doesn't do anything for me. In fact, art is like an empty, vain, unsatisfactory pursuit. Why would I put that above like relationships and values with my friends? And it's just interesting to hear that from a guy who's like a world-renowned, infamous, will a legend will not span the test of time, but will not be lost to the annals of time. Literally will be like a legend forever in so many different media formats, in cinematography, in film, in screenwriting, in radio, in all these things. He's like a legend in multiple formats. And for him to be like, artistry is lame and you shouldn't care about it. Yeah, it's just a fascinating man, and he seems like he's the coolest. Also, if you've never seen that commercial of him drinking wine, guys, look up Orson Welles wine commercial, and it's just him blasted on champagne. He's like, I think he's like in his late 60s. He's made all the money he's ever wanted to make. He's accomplished all the things he's ever wanted to accomplish. And this wine company is just like, yeah, we'll give you 20 grand if you drink our wine on camera and say it's good. And he's like, sounds good. And he is just blackout. Like, oh, the beautiful wine of Champagne. Oh, the elegance of the vineyards of Rome and the Champagne will flow like water. Like, he's blowing it every single time. And then between takes, getting more and more drunk, making the takes worse and worse and worse. It's the funniest. Just truly does not care. And I think I want to be him, but that's why I want to do research, because maybe it was like, oh, also he like loved kicking women as hard as he could in the body. It's like, I probably don't want to be. Maybe you don't listen to all of his values, all of his cool ideas. If he's like, artistry is the lowest of the values I hold, and then he's just like booting his wife in the rib cage. I don't know what I have to believe about your values. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. But maybe when you talk about like values and stuff, I shouldn't necessarily take that at face value, because you love punting the ladies. $58 minutes. Just punting ladies. So yeah, I really want to read a book called The Road to Xanadu, spelt with an X, about some guy's interviews with Orson Welles, but it's not available in my local library, the one close to me, so I've ordered it from another library to be shipped to my library 3 times, and then I get a text message that says, your book's here, and I go, well, I'm never going to the library. As soon as I order it, I'm like, I know I'm never going to read this, but I just want to know it's there. So I'm ruining somebody's day. Somebody's having to drive down from like up from Pueblo for that one book, and every time they're like, missed it again. Damn this man. What a blight on society. One time my brother, my older brother, filled up a shopping cart just full of stuff at the Safeway by our house. Just loaded it. Different things, different aisles, different sections. Absolutely crammed it and jammed it. And then he just left it somewhere and then came home and was laughing about it. And maybe it was like 13, I don't know. Just laughing about it. I think it was him and a friend. And my parents made him go back, and they went with him. They like drove him back to Safeway and apologize to the manager, and then go through and put everything back. And that's brutal. That'll wake you up as a young man. That'll put some hair on your chest, turn you from a boy to a man. You're gonna start making some different decisions in life after that. I steal all the time from Safeways, from Walmarts. Constantly doing a little bit of shoplifting. I've never gotten caught. For a long time, I didn't know it was stealing, but I just thought stuff that was after the cash register was for free. Because it's after the cash register. I couldn't have paid for this if I wanted to. It's after the cash register. So you can just take those. And I thought that was a thing for a while as a young man walking to the Safeway by my house. And then it did click with me. I'm like, that cannot be the case. There's no way that's free. But then I just kept doing it because I'm like, what are they going to... I'm just going to plead ignorance. I'm 17. I'm going to plead ignorance and go like, no, I thought this was free. How was I supposed to buy it? It was after the cash register. But it was mainly like, those like books where it's like, like Sudoku books or like best of Peanuts comics. What's the newspaper comic of the guy who works in an office but his tie is like bent? His tie is like kind of curled up. Who's that guy? What's his deal? Didn't the guy who like wrote those newspaper comics come out as like a white supremacist? What was that all about? I think it was during like January 6th, that kind of thing. And I'm not saying like white supremacists in the way that like everyone in Denver would call everyone in Colorado Springs a white supremacist, because just like, I think taxes should be low. Not like that. I mean like the guy who wrote those comics was like, I don't think black people should be alive. Like, he was just like, he's fully a white supremacist. He was like, I think the reason Trump didn't get elected is because black people are blowing it because they're a bunch of idiots. I think that was his. And he thought everyone was going to be like, sick, nice. You for president now. Guy who writes The Funnies, who I guess hates black people. It was nuts. And I don't even think, I'm almost positive I'm not misquoting it. I think I watched a video because he's like in his office, like his home office on like a Zoom recording. And he's like, people are misquoting me. They're taking what I said out of context. I didn't say I hated black people. I'm saying black people as a whole are a dumb community, and they don't know what they're doing, and they're lower. They're lower intelligence. But he's like, I never said I hated anyone. I just said I looked down on them as kind of a whole ethnic group. And I was like, wow. I wish you would have said hate. Hate at least is like kind of general and like, okay, maybe you were raised that way. I don't know. But you got really specific with it. It was like, that feels bad. That feels bad that you thought that was going to help. You thought that was better. Being more specific about why you hate a group of people is worse than being like kind of broadly generic. Both are bad. Let's not mince words. I don't want to get quoted. Both are bad. I think being specific about it is worse. Being like, no, I don't hate them for the color of their skin. That's ridiculous. I think the color of their skin implies a lower intelligence, and I look down on that. But I don't hate. I don't hate purely because of looks. I don't hate someone because they have blonde hair. But what I am saying is that statistically, people with blonde hair, it's like, I don't. That feels, like people are about to start pulling up some cool FBI crime statistics. What's the thing where, like, Nazis would measure people's heads? Not eugenics. That was the other cool science they were doing. What's it when they would measure a skull and be like, well, if your skull's this big, you must be Jewish, and if your skull's this small, you must be Mongolian or whatever. I bet that guy thinks that's cool. Actually, I bet if you go back to those Sunday funnies, I bet the different characters have different shaped skulls and different sized skulls depending on other physical features that he may or may not have felt comfortable drawing in the Sunday funnies. Man, those were the days. Taking Sunday funnies, putting silly putty on them, slapping silly putty on a Sunday funny, and then slapping, because as you all know, you put silly putty on a Sunday funny, it's going to transfer the ink onto that silly putty, which you can then stamp on your rear, your bare butt. So now you got Garfield saying, I hate Mondays, or his tummy's big because he just ate a lasagna, and now that is on your bare butt back. That's fun. That's a good time. You put that on the wall. You just take that ink, you put it straight on the wall. Your mom's pissed. I did a lot of cool stuff with the wall. You put boogers on the wall. You put holes in the wall. A lot of cool wall stuff you can do when you're just a 13-year-old boy in the suburbs. You got nothing to do. You can't really do anything other than to walk to Safeway. You can't get into hijinks because everyone in your neighborhood is rich. Not rich. Upper middle class. Oh. That cop just flashed his lights at me, I think as a warning to tell me to slow down. Wow. I was really coming in hot into Colorado Springs. I was going like 85. And there's a cop in the mid, in like the causeway. He was in the middle area. And as I was coming by, he just flashed as I got to him to like spook me, I think. And then turned him back off as soon as I slowed down. That was cool. That's a cool cop. I appreciate that, brother. I feel like he did it ahead of time because he's like, if you get past me and you're going 85, I have to pull you over. But I just see you coming in hot. As long as you don't go past the radar, you're cool. Thank you, police officer. Dude, If I got pulled over and I could just tell, and I tell the cop I'm recording a podcast, that's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me. Oh my God, I can't go to my house. No, I can't go to my house. I told you at the beginning of the podcast, I can't go to my house. My house is broken. I have to go out to Falcon. Oh my God. I am at the exit for my own home. I have to drive out to Falcon because we're staying out in Falcon with my in-laws because my house doesn't work right now. Oh my God. That's what doing a podcast on the road will do to you. I gotta drive out to Falcon. No. I was at the exit to my home and I gotta go 30 minutes out east. Oh my God. I started the podcast saying I can't go to my house. It's screwed. God damn it. Oh, I can't believe this. I can't believe I have to drive home now. I can't drive home. I can't drive home now. I have to drive to Falcon. I gotta drive 30 minutes. Ugh. I can't believe I did that. This is devastating. This is heartbreaking. What time is it? It's almost 3. That can't be right. Is it almost 3? I'm not going to get home till 3:30. Oh, my gosh. Let's type in the address. Let's see how long it's going to. I'm going to shoot myself in the head. Genuinely, like, should I just go home? Should I just go home, sleep in my actual bed, and just text my wife and say, hey, I went the wrong way. I'm not coming. Smell you later. No, I have to go. I have to go. She'd kill me. She wouldn't kill me. She'd be disappointed that she hasn't seen her husband in a week. 31 minutes. Suck me sideways. 31 minutes. She would be deeply disappointed if I, have been gone for 5 days and was like, all right, well, have fun sleeping alone. Daddy was 30 minutes too tired to make it out to you. Oh, my God. Well, we got a little bit of time to kill, ladies and gentlemen. What do you guys want to talk about? I have to drive past my house, my actual house, to get on Constitution to drive out to Falcon. This sucks. This sucks. Now there's someone sitting next to me at this red light. This is embarrassing. If they look over and see me talking to a microphone, that's embarrassing. If I get not that anyone would. If I got drive-by shot, if I got caught up in some gangland violence here on Fillmore, and the cops were like, yeah, this random man was shot to death in his car by a gangbang passerby. He seems to have been mid-pod. Deeply embarrassing. God, I wouldn't even have a funeral for me. If I heard my best friend got shot to death recording a podcast in a car, I'm not going to his funeral. That's the lamest thing I've ever heard in my life. Everything about this is embarrassing. Top to bottom. The way the episode started, a lot of the things I've said in the episode, this, kind of just my behavior in general. Ugh. Well, what are you going to do? We're going to soldier on. We're going to keep talking. You can't just go ugh into the microphone for another 30 minutes. That's not fun. You can't. That's yucky, and it sounds gross. My throat's starting to hurt. If I got strep on the airplane, it couldn't be because I've been talking for an hour straight. If I got strep from the airplane, And now, like, I've been gone for a week from work, and I've been gone for a week from my family, and then I get strep or something. That's it. It's over. Everyone's gonna be mad at me. It's the only reason I do anything at all. It's the only reason I've done anything in my life ever. It's not because of God. It's not from any internal motivation in terms of, like, greatness or success or having a higher standard for myself. It's not because of a reverence for our Lord and Savior. It's not because of a fear of going to hell. It's all because I just don't want people to be mad at me. If I had confidence or didn't have anxiety, if I didn't have, like, intrusive thoughts that everyone's just mad at me all the time, I wouldn't do anything at all. I'd be a menace to society. This is people who know me personally. You know how I act and behave and the things I say in the comfort of friends. Imagine if I also wasn't scared that people were going to be mad at me. If I also lacked that, I'd be the worst guy anyone's ever met. I'd be the worst kind of dude. If I had no fear, insanity. I'd be the worst guy. I blow it conversationally all the time. I forget people can see me. I forget people have lives and history and context to their life that I'm not aware of, and I just spout off. And I do that, and I'm afraid people are mad at me. That's with fear in my heart. Can you imagine if I didn't have that? I would be crazy. I don't know. There is, like, it is, I say some crazy things, and then I like to double down on those crazy things. But I don't know. That's fully that's a defense mechanism thing. Saying the crazy thing, that's just the top of the brain. There's not much I can do about that. That's just how God touched me in a special way. He pressed his thumb into my brain in a special way. But I will always double down, because doubling down is the defense mechanism, because that'll get you out of you'd be shocked how much that gets you out of stuff when it's like, I said this about a dead husband, and they're like, my husband died 2 days ago. If you double down on that, it's not huge. It's like a batting average where you're like, oh, wow, I don't know batting, but it's like a .261, right? It's like for every 1,000 pitches, he's going to hit less than a third of them. It's like, that's not a bad RBI from what I know about RBIs. Maybe that's incredible. Maybe that's absolute bottom tier. But, like, 2.61, I feel like that's probably like a decent RBI. That's less than a third. That's doubling down socially. If you double down, it's like an RBI level statistic where it's like, yeah, but like a fourth of the time it does get you out of it. What's the other option? Apologize? Say, oh my God, how inconsiderate of me? No. If you double down, there's like a 1 in 5 chance you can get them back. If you double down, you fully commit to either ignorance or charm, you can get away with it. Like a fifth of the time. Then there's so many times where doubling down does not work. Not a great percentage. Doubling down doesn't work. So then what is to double down on a double down? What is a quadruple down, you're wondering? A quadruple down is then getting meta and talking about the fact that you doubled down and they did not like it. You're like, oh, man, I thought we'd win. I thought I'd get you back with the double down. I thought if I just, like, really dug my heels in, I thought I'd get you back. Like, if you start talking about the fact that you double down, people don't like it when you say double down to them in their face after they've just told you that deeply upset me or frustrated me. Maybe they don't say it. You could just see it in their eyes. And I'll say it. I'll go like, I can tell. I can see it in your eyes. I've upset you. But I am doubling down. People don't like it. When you say no words need to be shared, It could go unspoken, but let me speak it into existence. Don't worry, folks. I'll be the hero. I'll address the elephant in the room. I can see what I've heard has troubled you on an emotional and spiritual level. Maybe it hasn't hurt you, but maybe it's disturbed you. Let me double down. Oh, I noticed you didn't like the double down. Oh, no, you didn't like the double down. Because when I first said it, I'm like, let's see if Stacy's cool. And then I saw, oh, Stacy, not so likey. I start talking like that, which is the most infuriating thing you could do. I don't know what that voice is or what that cadence is, but being like, oh, me, I don't think so. You know what I'm talking about? That tiptoed into like rude Asian a little bit, but that's not what I was going for. Like, oh, I think we're about to get a little bit wasted. Like, what is that voice? Who is that coming from? Why do we all know what I'm talking about? But that voice is infuriating. I hate that. When people do that in earnest, I can do it ironically because of a heightened sense of comedy. Because I'm just on a different plane. I have a refined taste of what is and isn't funny. But that voice done in earnest, like, this is going to make what I said funnier, is like, that's a guy who's never been funny in his life who thinks he's killing. That's that voice. Why don't you say we get a little bit crazy, huh? Like, I hate that voice. But that's what I'm doing to this woman. That's what I'm doing to Stacy right now. Like, I could tell Stacy, I'm like, oh, this is a little bit risque. And then I'm like, Stacy, what is Stacy thinking? And Stacy goes, uh-oh, I mean, I like you. I don't like that. So, and I'm just saying this to Stacy. And then I'm going, and now, Stacy, I can tell from the physical, social, body language cues, I can tell you're not liking what I'm throwing at you. Why don't we address it on the spot right now? What don't you like about what I'm saying right now? Why do you dislike this? Yeah, so that's the quadruple down, is then putting it on them. Addressing in meta, you don't like what I'm doing. Why don't you like what I'm doing? And make them the bad guy. That's a sick move. Talking about someone's dead husband and making them the bad guy, that's the CIA training. That's got to be some deep, that's some 5D chess right there. Unrelated, I keep getting TikToks from a guy who, like, ethnically ambiguous, shoulder length, kind of like curly hair. And he even says, he's like, I'm ethnically ambiguous, which is why I was a good spy. I was a spy for the CIA. And it's really important to be ethnically ambiguous because you can kind of blend in everywhere. Just like, depending on what you do with your hair, you can kind of blend in anywhere. But he's like, here's what we did in the CIA, and here's what the CIA teaches you, and here's what the CIA does. And, like, I teach courses on some of the stuff that I learned in the CIA and how you can apply those lessons and skills to your life. I'm like, why the fuck are we listening to this guy? He was in the CIA. Like, he's a liar. Like, he's telling you to his face, he's like, I'm a spy. I was a spy, and my whole job was espionage, was lying to people, was tricking them into giving me information, divulging things, or picking up information that they didn't want me to know. But now I'm telling you guys the truth? No one's going like, no, you're a liar. How has anyone paid for this marketing course that this guy is selling or whatever? Where he's like, top 7 ways. The CIA doesn't want you to know this. Yeah, I saw him give advice once where he's like, one thing the CIA won't do is there are certain protected classes, you could call them, I guess. Like, protected things that we will never spy as. Like, you will never catch anyone from the CIA pretending to be someone from the Peace Corps. You'll never catch anyone from, like, being a spy pretending to be someone of a medical background, like a doctor or a nurse or anything like that. You'll never catch an American spy going over to another country as a form of, like, disguised as a form of aid, because we don't want those people like the Peace Corps, people like doctors, we don't want them to even be suspected of being a spy, because if they find one spy who's in the Peace Corps, now this whole country will kick out everyone in the Peace Corps in case they might be spy. Or they'll start picking on and, like, picking up people who are in the Peace Corps or who are doctors in the back of a van and taking them somewhere to interrogate them, because what if they might be a spy? So we will never be spies disguised as a position that brings aid to a foreign country. We would never do that. Like, why are we listening to him? He's a spy. Of course he would say it. That's exactly what a spy would say. Like, oh, I would never do that. Wink, wink. What are we talking about? How is anyone listening to this guy? Yeah, of course you would say that. Of course a spy would be like, spies would never be doctors. Oh, so all doctors are spies is immediately what that tells me. Why would I listen to you? So there's spies in the Peace Corps right now. That's crazy. That's crazy that anyone is listening to this guy. His whole job is being a liar, and you think now he's telling the truth for no reason? That's nuts. That's crazy. I would be a terrible spy, because I hate the feds. No, I'd be a bad spy, because, again, love to hear myself talk. I would never get any information, because I would just keep meeting new people in different countries, and I'm like, let me tell you some wacky stories about me. And 6 months would go by, and they'd be like, what do you have to report? And I'm like, I have met some lovely people over here. And they're buying tickets to my improv. We started an improv troupe together, and I'm selling tickets here in Kazakhstan. I bet comedy in the second world is bad. You know, I think the second world is technically any country that is former USSR. Those are considered second world countries. Like, that's the technical definition. I bet comedy in Croatia is terrible. I bet it's a lot of, like, honk this flower on my shirt. And I bet it's a lot of clown-adjacent kind of humor. Honk a flower, water squirts out, but over there, oh, it's vodka. There's fun. You ever seen Japanese stand-up comedy? Japanese stand-up comedy is like a lot of, like, I fall down, I bonk my head. But it's not like its own thing. It's not like they call it improv or, like, oh, in Japan they call it Tidakikash, and it translates to buffoon man. No, it's like you Google Japanese stand-up, and it's like, guy walks on stage, and he's like, he looks a little confused, and he takes a step to stage left, slips on a banana peel, and then hits the ground and farts, and everyone loses their mind. They think that's the funniest thing they've ever seen in their life. I bet a lot of countries, I bet a lot of their stand-up comedy, like a lot of their, like, maybe it's not stand-up comedy, but like they're like, what is funny on stage that people will sit in an audience for and pay tickets for? Probably a lot of, like, what we in the Americas. This is so generalizing and dismissive and perhaps ethnocentric. But I bet a lot of it's like, guy falls on tush. But it's a lot of whoopee cushion humor. And I'm only saying that because I've seen lots of clips of other countries, what they consider comedy. So I don't know. I'm just a kid from Colorado Springs. But I've just seen videos. Seen lots of videos of, like, what other countries think is funny. And I don't get it, and that's fine. Really painting myself into a corner here. We got to pull is that another cop? Slow down. It was the sheriff. I'm going 10 over. Is the sheriff cool with 10 over? The sheriff's cool, everybody. The sheriff is cool. I got a sheriff out here, Falcon. It's an unincorporated whatever. I just assume. It's so weird to me when I'm like, wow, Manitou has a mayor. Fountain has a mayor. That's crazy. Monument has a mayor. That's insane. I don't know why. I just feel like there's two cities in Colorado, and it's the Springs, Pueblo, and Denver. Those are all the towns. And every other city, I just imagine, has a dog for a mayor. The fact that they have, like, real elected officials. Fountain having an election is insane to me. I don't know why. It's a fine piece of town. It's just weird to imagine that they have representatives. Well, I think we've officially wound down. I think that's kind of... I think I've hit all the topics. I think I've discussed everything I've wanted to. I think I barely talked about my vacation. That's fun. And I think this whole thing's been not the best, but it is kind of an emergency podcast. And it is funny that an episode without a guest is just as long as an episode with one. That's hilarious. I'm so far up my own ass. I really think I'm the coolest, funniest person in the world. That's insane. Well, that's Bubble Boy. I didn't drink a soda. My throat hurts and I'm scared about this Dr. Pepper now. That's Bubble Boy. Next week there will be a good episode with a guest, and I'm sure you guys are going to be like, oh, wow, Jose. Jose's hilarious. I love Jose McCall. He's so funny. But if anyone's tuning in for Jose, that's insane, too. That's as crazy as Falcon having a mayor. Anyways, that's the time. That's the show. Russell Keller, Bubble Boy. Like, follow, subscribe to the TikTok, subscribe to the YouTube page. Let's get those views up, everybody. Okay, bye. Man, it is hard to use a trackpad while you're driving. Where is the pause button? Okay, bye.